Man, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Freddie Stevenson from Trials of Triumph, and I just want to thank you guys for supporting last week's episode with Rashad Green. But listen, y'all know how we do it, man. I kept telling y'all, banger after banger. We got another one up for you this week with one of the greatest athletes ever. Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, former NBA player Charlie Ward comes on the show this week to talk about his journey at Florida State, learning from Bobby Bowden, dealing with adversity, and so much more. So make sure to check this one out. But first, I would like to take the time out to thank our presenting sponsor. Stein Financial is a registered investment advisory firm, building tailored wealth and asset management services for individuals, families, businesses, and trusts. I'd love to thank them for being our presenting sponsor for this episode. Make sure you give them a call at 850-737-4752. I would also like to thank our other sponsors, Howard Buchanan Strong, T1RX, Indie Atlantic Films, and Concord Coffee. But let's get into this episode. I just appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us. You know you're a person that I got a high level of respect for, just how you carry yourself as a man of faith. That's number one. And of course, you've been blessed to do a lot of great things in your life, but how you've been able to leverage that and give back to the next generation. It's inspirational. So I appreciate you taking the time out today.
Well, I appreciate you. I've been following you for quite some time, and of course know your story. But just happy to be able to be a part of your ministry.
Yes, sir. So on this platform, what we do is we share inspirational stories of people from all walks of life. So with you, I want to start in the beginning, growing up in Georgia. What was it like for you growing up in Georgia, upbringing, family structure, developing growth? Lessons you learned?
Well, I'm from Thomasville, which is a smaller town, but one where everyone knew each other, and we were there for one another. The neighborhood was the neighborhood. We go out and play, friends, and we all grew up together throughout the years, even though we went to different schools, and sometimes the same school. But my parents were educators. My dad was a coach and teacher. My mom was a librarian. And I had 7 siblings. Okay, where did you fall in the group? I was third oldest. Okay. My oldest brother was out of the house before all of us was a part of it. But so we grew up, 2-parent household, went to church every Sunday and sometimes Sunday nights as well. But our parents raised us to be disciplined. That's who they were. And they also raised us to love one another and how to love other people. And so that kind of spread it out through our family, but also in the community. We grew up with, our best friends being on the opposite side of the field sometimes, or court, but we were still best friends. But Thomasville, that's just the way it was and still is in a lot of ways. But it's a city that, growing up, it provided a lot of discipline. Where, if you go into somebody else's house, you got to respect their house. And also, they help support you in the things that your endeavors, even if it was outside of your household. So family was across town. It was at the school. Whenever you got in trouble, your parents knew about it, especially mine, because I was, they were educators. So I didn't get in trouble a lot. But when I did do something improper in class or didn't make the grade or whatever it was, I was slipping, that got back to my parents, and of course it helped me, a lot of fire underneath me. Yes, sir. How early did you start getting into sports growing up? Man, I was gifted. That was one of my gifts, was just great hand-eye coordination. And so I started at a very early age of just dribbling the basketball, throwing balls, hitting balls, I just had that kind of coordination. That was my parents said I was around 2 years old when I was able to dribble a basketball, and that's just what I did. I got in trouble dribbling a basketball in the house. That was not allowable, but I continued to do it, and of course, I had to suffer those consequences. I broke a lot of things in the house as well because I was either shooting or throwing. A sock or a ball or whatever it was, and I was always touching the door frame. That was something I always did, or I was always making a cut on a door frame, or if there was something in the middle of the hallway. So there was always something I just did growing up. And then once I got an opportunity to play organized sports, basketball, football, that's what I did.
At what point, you said that you were gifted, but at what point did you not just know that you could play at a higher level, but what point did, in your mind, you get to the point where you're like, man, I can not only I have an ability to play at a high level, but because I've seen a lot of people that grow up and they're talented, but they don't necessarily believe that they can make it to the pros because they haven't seen people around them that do it. For you, was that one of your aspirations early on?
Well, we were blessed to be able to, since we were from Thomasville, we were blessed to be able to see professional athletes because we had some in our hometown.
Okay.
Henry Charles, William Andrews, just to name a few at that time, were guys that, as a little pup, they were in the NFL. They went to Thomasville High, but being in a small town, we saw them, got a chance to meet Hank Aaron and Doc Rivers when they were playing with the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Hawks. They came to Thomasville. And so we got an opportunity to see professional athletes. But we also I was there, I was watch television. I was watch television and wanted to be O.J. Simpson or Walter Payton. Or Dr. J, Mo Cheeks. They were the ones who were winning at the time, Magic Johnson. So I always had dreams and aspirations of being a professional, but I did whatever other kid that dreams do. Go in the backyard and you make the countdown and, you count it down to, the end, and then you either shoot the ball, either make or miss. Everyone had that dream, or you throw it to yourself and you're catching it, you make the move to score the touchdown. So I had all those dreams and different things growing up. But my deal was just I just enjoyed playing, the sport. Academics was secondary, but I had to make sure that I got my academics in order because that was the only way I was going to be able to play. And that was what my parents held that fire to my feet and held that over me to make sure that if I wanted to do what I wanted to do, I had to make sure I was getting my academics in order because that was the only way I was going to make it. And so I just had the desire to dream just like every young kid, but I also had to go through those processes, because I couldn't just boof it and all of a sudden, being a professional is right now. I'm still 12. But I had to go through those different steps and develop some habits that would prepare me for that opportunity when it came.
Growing up in Georgia, did you live in a household that was sports fans of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida State? What team did y'all grow up liking as far as colleges?
Well, believe it or not, my parents graduated from FAMU.
Okay.
So pretty much all of the games that we went to were FAMU, whether it was football or basketball, because my dad's a coach and there were some of his players that attended FAMU, so we used to come to the games and watch them. And even if there weren't any players on the team, we used to still come because they were Rattler alums. And so grew up coming to FAMU watching most of those games. And on the television, there was also FSU games because we were in Thomasville. And my dad was he was an Atlanta fan, so he watched the Braves, the Hawks, for regardless if they were winning or losing.
Okay.
So we kind of grew up watching all the teams locally, in Thomasville. All that was on our television, I should say.
Okay. What was your recruitment process like in high school?
I got back then it was a lot of letters. So I got a lot of letters early on in my high school days. I had like 2 or 3 shoe boxes full. But as I continued to move through my high school years, it really came down to 3 schools. There was 4 schools. Auburn was the 4th school, but they decided to go a different direction later in my recruiting process. And Georgia Tech got X'd off the list because my best friend, who I competed against for all my days and competed with at AAU from Thomasville, ended up going to Georgia Tech as a quarterback, Sean Jones. And so it came down to University of Georgia or Florida State. And so I ended up choosing Florida State. Just to back up, Coach Bowden was, of course, a legend because he was always on our television for the Bobby Bowden show, and watched the basketball coach as well doing his show. In my middle school years, I came to FSU basketball camps with my dad and his team. And so they started looking at me from a basketball perspective. Never went into football camps. But as I became a senior, Coach Bowden used to come to the games. And, of course, that was a big deal because the living legend was at the game, and you would see him at the games. And so it didn't trip me out to the point where I couldn't function or focus. I just knew he was there. And, of course, we wanted to compete at a high level and do the best I could. But the crazy part about it was, I didn't know Coach McDuffie was a big advocate for me. And he had to actually sell Coach Bowden that I would be a good fit at Florida State. And so it took some convincing for him to at least give him an opportunity. But when it came down to it, Coach Bowden allowed Brad Johnson to play basketball and football. And that's what I wanted to do in college. And so that gave me the chance to know that he was serious about it. Not saying Georgia was telling me that I could play both sports, but they had no history. And Coach Bowden, of course, being a Christian man, and he actually told my mom and dad that I would have an opportunity to play if I did. Did what I was supposed to do, which was make sure my academics were in order. That he would give me an opportunity to do that. And so when it was all said and done, I chose Florida State because of Coach Bowden, and him allowing Brad Johnson to play basketball and football. Also, not being far from Thomasville, so people could come and still watch me play. And so those were some of the factors. And also my roommate, my freshman year, played here at Florida State. So, he was in the same high school that I was in. So I went to school with him in high school. So he kind of recruited me to come there when it was another selling point.
Stein Financial is an independent fee-only fiduciary investment advisory firm building tailored wealth management and asset management services for families, businesses, individuals, and trusts. As a fiduciary, Stein Financial is obligated to act in your interests, always sitting at your side of the table. No selling financial products, no commissions, just their expertise working as a personal CFO to help you reach your personal financial goals. They do better as you do better, just as it should be. Bennett Stein, firm founder and owner, is a CPA and certified financial planner, and he utilizes his background in portfolio management, business valuation, and tax in order to offer services to help you reach your financial goals. Plus, he's a lifelong Seminole fan and FSU grad, and he's always willing to talk about all things FSU. That's Stein Financial. Give them a call today at 850-737-4752.
How difficult was it to balance playing basketball and football while you were in college?
It wasn't hard at all.
Okay.
You know, people think it was a lot harder, but I just allowed my resources to help me. But when you love something, you'll find a way to balance it out. And so I was grateful. You know, my freshman year, I didn't get an opportunity to go and play basketball. I actually had to go through mat drills, which you know a little bit about.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I played basketball. I played basketball for the rest of my years, but I got 1 year in of mat drills, and that was enough for me to find a different deal. But it was a great experience for me because I got a chance to kind of prove myself and also go through that toughness with my teammates during that time. And so my second year, Coach Bowden allowed me to go and play basketball full time when it was basketball season.
Okay.
So up until October 15th, I was practicing football. I was redshirted that year because the first year I was a punter, which burnt my first year of eligibility. But that was a blessing for me later on. But my second year, I was a red shirt. He allowed me to go and play basketball full time. So, you know, while I was practicing football during the day or during football time, then right after football practice, I would go and practice basketball. So once October 15th came. And so I was the scout team quarterback. And then I went and started playing basketball. And of course, I was watching the football team when they were traveling and at home games. I was on the sideline. But it was that balancing act. Of course, I had to go to study hall and make sure that my grades are in order during that year. And then the following, that was the first year I got an opportunity to kind of get my feet wet and establish my position on the basketball court, which was a great blessing for me because I was able to show the coaches what I was capable of doing, and they wanted me to keep coming back the next year. And so that was like my foundation for basketball. Then next year, you know, I was practicing football, and then once basketball happened, I went to a couple of tournaments in November, latter part of November, when football season's over. And then I was back and forth between the bowl game and basketball games. So I was handling that deal. I was doing, you know, the bowl practice time. And then the following 2 years was when I started playing. And once I started playing, I didn't go out for basketball until the first year, my junior year, redshirt junior year. I went out basketball the week after we played in Nebraska. And then my senior year, I actually had to take 2 weeks off because I got beat up pretty good that game. And so I was a little sore for a couple weeks. I had to recover. And then I went out for basketball my senior year. But balancing the two, you know, between the academic piece, I had to, of course, communicate with my academic advisor and my professors to make sure that I was getting everything I needed to get to be able to make my grades. And I was blessed to be able to graduate, you know, while playing two sports, which was, you know, it was tough to think about, but going through the process and using the resources, but I had to also do my part. It made it a little easier.
When you got your first opportunity to be a starter for the football team, you went through a little bit of adversity early on. How were you able to push through that adversity? And I would love to hear your advice to younger players that are going to deal with that adversity at some point, not just in sports, but in life.
Yes. My junior year was very, very rocky. I was definitely a roller coaster when it came to the production.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was throwing interceptions left and right, but I was also throwing and accounting for touchdowns left and right, and so I was trying to balance those two out. The coaches were holding me accountable, of course, as you know. When you make mistakes, you have to run stadiums. For us, we had to run stadiums or gassers. So I ran a lot of stadiums and gassers that first year. But one thing that was really telling for me was, I was really inexperienced. That was really my first time stepping onto the field and playing and competing in a real game.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were some growing pains that I had to go through. But one of the things that was really good for me was, one, I had great teammates. So my defense, I put them in some bad situations, but they bailed me out. But they also gave me opportunities to be able to redeem myself at end of games because that was just, I was just grateful for the opportunity to be able to redeem myself because I was struggling so bad.
Yeah.
And secondly, I had coaches that were willing to give me multiple opportunities to make mistakes, and they held me accountable, but they gave me multiple opportunities to make mistakes and also watch film and learn from it. And being able to talk to teammates being there for me as well because they knew I was going through a tough time. And in this day and age, they have sports psychologists. I just had people to be able to bounce things off of and talk things out, which is something that I think we all should do. And not just when we're going through adversity, but when we just have things on our mind, we should share that. But I was that roller coaster. But once I figured out the formula that will help us be successful, which was I had to make sure that I was throwing the football to our guys. And once I figured that part out, things started to soar. But there was a lot of challenging times. And of course, I wasn't doing social media, which I'm glad I wasn't a part of social media because I would have probably.
Oh man, they would have tried to throw you to the wolves, man.
They would have thrown me to the wolves, and our name would have been a lot of names, and I'm sure there are names being called. And I got mail, but Miss Sue, as you know, Miss Sue read through my mail, and so she sent me the ones that probably need to be read, and probably threw out the ones that need to be thrown out. And so, just had a guardian angels, people watching out for me throughout that time when I was struggling. And just like everyone, you have to continue to move forward. There are going to be times where you get knocked down and you have to get back up and keep moving forward. And so, like I said, just having great teammates and coaches believing in you, and then you have to step up and believe in yourself that you can get it done, and put the work in and trust your work.
Yes, sir. What does it mean to you when you have the early struggles that year, and then the following year you're able to lead your team to a championship and get awarded for the individual success that you had as a leader, winning the Heisman Trophy after your early struggles?
Yeah, we all want that redemption story. Everyone has a story. It's just like growing pains. I mean, when you're growing, you don't know why your knees are hurting. I mean, that's just always be, man, why my knees hurting? And then I understood at some point when I matured a little bit, well, you're growing. And when you're growing, you have these pains. And you just have to navigate, and you have to go through it. And once you get over that part, once you continue to grow and you stop growing, you understand, man, that was in the past. And that helped me to develop a mental toughness, a grind mentality, overcome, resilience, perseverance, all those things that helped me to understand that that's part of it. But we just have to keep moving forward, as I mentioned. So as long as we keep moving forward and learning from what we've been in the past, we can do great things. And that was just my story those 2 years where, once I figured out mid-season the formula of our success, we started to develop some great chemistry. The team, my junior year, was starting to elevate, and we were number one coming in my senior year because we had a lot of guys coming back. And then I got thrown into the Heisman deal, which I wasn't a big fan of, but the student body decided that that's what they wanted to do and push me forward, which I'm grateful for now. But it was an evolution, an evolution from the first game to, the next game of the first year, because we played Duke my junior year, and then we played Kansas, and it was night and day when it came down to, the outcome. But that's all part of that evolution and growing process. But the other thing was I had a lot more experience.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing. People was asking me about, the system that we were in, and was that the issue? And, going into the shotgun, was like the breakout. I just had a little bit more experience.
Yeah.
Yes, I know the offense was different. My junior year, and then my senior year, we kind of dibble and dabble with some of the things that we did before, the I formation and split backs and those types of things. We started doing a little bit more of that while mixing in some of the shotgun, and that was a part of just the evolution for me as well, because I was learning my junior year, and then my senior year, I was producing off of just having great experience, and as you know, when you have experience, there are a lot of things that you see, and you see differently. And so I saw a lot of things differently, and I can anticipate what was about to happen just based upon the experience I had.
You ended up, of course, putting together a great career, ended it with a bang. But ultimately, you didn't get the opportunity to play in the NFL. Was it discouraging for you because you had played basketball and football, your whole entire life? Was it discouraging for you not to get the opportunity to live out your dreams in the NFL?
No, I mean, that was a question I haven't been asked or before, because my senior year was I made the choice to continue to play basketball my senior year, which I knew could potentially end my football career because I wasn't 100% committed to the NFL. And once that happened, once the season ended for basketball, I did go and do the pro day on campus and all those different types of things, talked to a few teams, but I already knew my draft grade, which was, my stock in the draft. I was going to be a third or fourth round pick. That's just where quarterbacks my size went during that time. Even Joe Montana, he was a third or fourth round pick. Warren Moon didn't go in the draft because they wanted to move him to a different position, so he ended up going to Canada. And so I knew regardless of what I did during the pre-draft phase, I wasn't going to up my stock to a first-round pick. So that was not going to happen. So I wanted to keep my options open, and I knew, as I mentioned, then I doubled down on top of that and said that if I get drafted in the first round, then I would consider my other options. And so, of course, that didn't go over well with the GMs or the owners or the teams. And so when it came down to it, I did get a call in the fifth round from the Kansas City Chiefs and asked if I would want to be Joe Montana's backup, which, that was tough to turn that down because Joe Montana was my hero. And I was like Joe Montana in a lot of ways. And that would have been a great opportunity for me to take over the Kansas City Chiefs after Joe Montana retired. But I told him I couldn't guarantee him that I would come to camp if I got drafted in the first round of the NBA. At that time, I had no clue that that would be the case. So I betted on myself to be able to go through the NBA process, and then I had to live with whatever I was going to live with during that process. If I was going first or second round pick in the NBA draft, I had to live with that because I had kind of not exhausted my options in the NFL, but I did have Canada, they have Major League Baseball that I got drafted as well. So I was going to consider my other options, but I was grateful that the NBA, the New York Knicks, gave an opportunity to be a first-round pick.
Your first year, you were under Coach Riley. What was it like to be under a coach like Coach Riley?
It was challenging for me because one of the things that was most challenging was I was coming from being a Heisman Trophy winner, which is top dog, to being a rookie, and so that dynamic was very tough because I'm competitive, and I went from being the main guy and having opportunities to the low man on the totem pole and not having opportunities to be able to go out and compete during game day. But I started to understand my role. As a rookie, I got an opportunity to work with Coach Jeff Van Gundy every day. He's the assistant there. And I also learned a lot from Derek Harper and Doc Rivers and Greg Anthony. Those guys were in front of me. So I knew that I wasn't going to be playing much. But in my mind, I was like, I should be playing because I'm coming to practice every day. I'm working out every day before practice, and I want to be able to play. But I had to sit and watch, and I watched those guys, and I also listened to Coach Riley and his speeches and how he motivated guys. And then, at the end of the year, he challenged me that I need to become a better leader. And so that was something, that I had to internalize as well because I was like, I am a leader. But he saw that I needed to be a better leader. And so I needed to grow in that area. And, the summer, I would continue to work on my game and get better. And then the second year, I come and Coach Riley leaves and he goes to Miami and they bring in Don Nelson. Don Nelson decides when he comes in that I am not fit to be his backup point guard because I was supposed to be the backup, at least have an opportunity to be the backup point guard because they had traded away some guys and I was supposed to be next in line to be the backup to Derek Harper that next year. But he comes in and he moves. He brings in a guy that he likes, a point guard that he likes. And so I ended up being a third point guard and sitting on the bench. But I continued to work with Coach Jeff Van Gundy each and every day. And then Coach Nelson was relieved of the job after All-Star break because we weren't playing up to par. And then, lo and behold, they give the job to Coach Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah, you've been working with up behind the scenes all this time.
Correct. And so, I showed up every day. He worked me out every day. He knew what I was capable of doing. And so he saw me in practice. And so the guy that was the backup, he removed him out of the, being a backup and gave me an opportunity. And so that was how I was able to, make my way into the lineup. And, for those years, I was able to stick.
Men were not built to coast. We were built to conquer. T1RX delivers physician-led testosterone therapy and supplements forged for operators. No excuses, no fluff, just results. Make sure to visit T1RX.com and take the edge back. And at checkout, use code Trials of Triumph to get 10% off of your order.
You, of course, being a part of a franchise like the Knicks, so much history. Did you feel like it was added pressure being in a city like New York?
Well, the first thing was when I was leaving the Heisman, my the year that I won it because it was in New York. When I was leaving, I was like, going through that whole process and seeing how the city was and how congested it was and how the people were rude and all those types of things. And I was like, man, I would never be able to live in New York. So that was my running joke, with God, that if you want a place to be or say or do something, then just tell God that you don't want to be there. So I ended up in New York. Spike Lee, of course, wanted me to be one of his clients. He was in the agent business, and so I got a chance to meet him. But now he's on the sideline on opposite sides of where I'm sitting in New York. And I always knew the Garden. It was, of course, mystique. Being able to go there, I started to know the people. I started to learn the city. I started to drive like the people there. Still wasn't, I was still speaking to people, but I started to understand I need to keep my head, moving forward. If someone's, everybody's taking care of their own business. So I just started to understand how to maneuver around New York, and it kind of grew on me. I was there for almost 10 years, 9.5 years as a player, and then we were there for half a year or a year or so afterwards. But New York kind of grew on me, the city, and we lived out in Connecticut and Westchester County. That's where the practice facilities were. And so we were in a suburb. We weren't always in the city, but being able to have access to the city was always a great blessing.
You got one of the guys. I found out about him from Space Jam. I wasn't a big basketball guy growing up, but watching Space Jam, I learned about Patrick Ewing.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't follow basketball growing up. Then I watched Space Jam. I was like, all right, cool. And it's crazy to think because you're watching a movie with Michael Jordan, but that's what got me into basketball. What was it like during your time in New York playing with Ewing?
Well, I had a true blessing of playing with a lot of
Great players.
And Patrick was one of those guys. Of course, I grew up watching him, at Georgetown, and then getting an opportunity to play with him was just truly a great blessing. Actually, my locker was right next to his locker, and so one of his pregame rituals was he used to always have grapes. That he eat grapes, but he would dribble that basketball like I used to do as a young kid in the house. He would dribble the ball between his legs, and he would work up a lather pre-game, just sitting there dribbling the basketball between his legs, and that was like his deal. And sometimes, of course, his handles weren't as good, so I had to retrieve the basketball for him. But we had a great relationship. And one of the things we were at a game. I was at game one of the Eastern Conference Finals, and it came up in one of the players, one of our teammates, was talking about this. I didn't hold back or I didn't sugarcoat certain things, and if it was wrong, it was just wrong. And so I used to get on him like. I know he's a superstar, but if it was something that he wasn't doing right, I just let him know. And so there was one time where he was asking for the basketball, and when you don't give him the basketball, he would get upset. And so he was calling for the basketball, but he had got pushed out towards the 3-point line. And so he was calling for it, like giving the ball, and I was like, "Hey man, you all the way out here. Just go ahead and set a screen." And so I just swung the basketball. He got upset. I was like, "Man, you out here? Just go ahead and set a screen then. You let the man push you all the way out." And so I was like, "Hey, that's on you. The next time you get in the post and fight for a better position." But we just had a great relationship, and he taught me a lot. While I was there, just his professionalism. Every day he came in before practice to get shots up, work on his game. That was very evident as well.
After your time in New York, you were able to play with San Antonio for a year. What was it like being around a legendary coach like Greg Popovich? Then you're around in New York, you're around great players, and then you're around that legendary roster in San Antonio as well.
Yeah, that year I was there for 6 months, and it was a great blessing for me because it was much different than New York. We went to San Antonio, and it was more family friendly. Like the whole organization was family friendly. They actually had a daycare for you to be able to drop your kids off during the game
Right.
and go to, the wife to go to the game, and then you're there playing. So that was different because we definitely have that in New York. And there was a family room which we had in New York, but this was different because it had a daycare there for you to be able to leave your kids. And then Pop, was Pop. Like he treated every player the same. Like he didn't sugarcoat Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker or Tim Duncan. Those guys got the same treatment as everybody else. When they weren't doing what they're supposed to do in the film room, he got on them, and they responded. They didn't go back and forth. They were like, understand, and they responded well. And that was something that taught me a lot, because if they can be chastised or corrected or coached, and then they respond that way, everyone should be able to do it. And they got the results as well. That was the reason why they were so successful, because they were coachable. And so that taught me, just you got to, as a coach, you have to treat everybody the same, regardless of their status or who they are. Not saying that didn't happen in New York, but it was just very evident how he talked to the guys and how they responded. There was like no hurt feelings, none of that. They just responded.
You were blessed to have put together a long career, but the crazy part about it is, at the beginning of your career, you got to witness and be a part of battles with guys like Kobe Bryant, and then at the end of your career, guys like LeBron. Are those people looking at it now that you have to live things out, and you seen them put together great careers? Did you know that they go on to be the type of players that they went on to be?
Well, to go back, just throw out two guys. I'm throwing another guy, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Was on the back end of his career. I had a few years with him. We never were able to beat the Bulls while he was playing. But being able to play against those three guys, along with some of the other Hall of Famers that you may know during that era. But Jordan, of course, is Jordan. Kobe was right in the middle. He was like a couple of years in, so he's relatively young, but you saw like the talent. And he did things that were on the next level. And then LeBron came through, and he was young as well, and you could see the talent. And you saw him start to elevate. But Kobe and LeBron were coming out of high school. And so you could see them being young and learning. They had to go through those times of growing. Regardless of how talented you are, you still have to, the experience is different.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you could see them being who they are today, who Kobe was as a player and developing his leadership. But those guys worked. I mean, every last one of them had a great work ethic, and that plays a big part in the success.
After your playing career was over, what was it that made you want to get into coaching?
Well, I really didn't know. I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I had an injury. My knee injury was what caused me to lose my career, basketball career. But I had played 11 years, a great career, and I was trying to figure out what would be next. And talking to my wife and my mom, like you've been in sports all your life, because I was thinking about doing something in business, something in that realm, whether it's clothing line or whatever it may be. And they're like, you've been in sports all your life. And plus my dad was a coach and I grew up in it. And I don't know if I was running away from it or I felt like I wouldn't be a good coach because a lot of things I felt like I did on the football and basketball court or even in baseball were instinctual. But when I started thinking about all the things that I had learned from my coaches, from football to basketball, I had something to give. And then Coach Van Gundy was like, I signed a 3-year deal in Houston, and I got hurt in the first year, so I had 2 more years left. And he was like, if you want to, see if coaching is something you want to do long term, you can do an internship and see if coaching is what you want to do. And so I took him up on the deal. I didn't have to move or do anything. And when the season came along, he gave me like one of the rookies to be able to mentor and coach. And I enjoyed that process. When I saw what I was able to do, because I was giving him a lot of things that I learned from him, Coach Van Gundy, and then some of my other player development coaches as well. So I was watching film with them, helping them navigate their way through the NBA as rookies, and then, doing some court work with them as well. And then, he was like, you don't have to travel if you want to travel. But for me, I was like, I want the whole experience. So I ended up traveling with them that year as well. And then the next year, I was able to become one of the assistants because one of the other coaches left. And I became one of the assistants. I was the guy behind the bench. Now they call them player development coaches. I was that guy. And that's what I continue to do. I started to put together game plans for, I had teams that I was assigned to. That gave me a good start, understanding how to put together game plans. Of course, I had Coach Tom Thibodeau there with me and Steve. I'm drawing a blank on Steve's name, but I had quite a few assistants who were head coaches during that time, just helping me navigate my way through, putting film together for the guys to watch, watching teams and putting together a game plan like I mentioned. That helped elevate me to become the coach that I am today, that foundation.
No. Kind of, you speak about your faith a lot. Talk to me about what God has meant to you along your journey.
Well, one of the things that I've learned is everything in our life is part of God's plan. People look at lives and say, man, that happened to you, that happened to you. How's that part of God's plan? Well, the plan is for us to be able to persevere and be resilient through that time so that we can help somebody else. That's the plan that he has for us. We just have to make sure that we get through those times because the story is not for us. The story is for us to go through it, but it's for us to be able to help somebody else. And so, when I started to understand that, of course, you grow through a lot of different experiences and leaning on your faith. And that was one of the things when we talked about, how were you able to make it through your college years? It was leaning on my faith because I knew that if I could just navigate my way through and persevere through this tough time, that God will elevate me. And I had to understand my purpose for being elevated. And that was to glorify him.
We would like to thank Howell Buchanan Strong for sponsoring today's episode of Trials of Triumph. They are a healthcare licensing and professional licensed law firm headquartered in the capital city of Tallahassee, with offices located throughout the state, assisting those with healthcare regulation compliance, healthcare transactions, and other healthcare defense. If you're facing legal problems, you're going to need a strategic defense. Howell Buchanan Strong is Florida's trusted law firm to help you with your licensing issues.
And we're having a conversation, so if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. But I know a few years ago you experienced a stroke, and you talked about changing your diet around. You're vegan now, correct?
Correct.
Have you noticed a difference since making the change?
Yes. The crazy part about it was I think a lot of that, mini stroke that I incurred was one, it was centered around stress.
Stress, yeah.
And so I was in a very stressful job that I was just been released from. And once I was released from it, I had developed some bad eating habits. Wasn't working out as much as I should or could to make good health decisions, and then stress on top of that. And then I was doing great work. When I had the stroke, I was doing great work on the mission trip in Mexico, and ended up having the stroke over there, and then I had to get back to the States to be able to make sure I got taken care of, and that started the journey of just health and wellness at a different level. And once I got to a point where I started going to a cardiologist, and the cardiologist that I ended up going to was someone my wife when we were in Houston. She was in the health and wellness industry, and she met this cardiologist who's his whole mission was plant-based, healing through plant-based medicine in a sense, so through food. And so we ended up going to see him, and he ended up putting me on this raw food diet for like 4 weeks. This was like a couple months after the stroke. And that process started to help me with the healing process because I started to feel better. My numbers and everything were good. And then I've just stuck with it for the 7.5 years, afterwards.
Yeah, I like seeing the videos you post, educating people about the different things you're putting into your body. I think that's important, especially in the Black community, because we grow up in all these different foods that we eat that are passed down from generation to generation. And when you try to eat healthy, you got that family member that's like, yo, what you want to eat healthy for?
Right.
But so the fact that you're not just doing it, you're educating people about the benefits of it, I think that's huge.
Yes, and I do a little bit. There's some that do a lot more, but the part that I like to do is just, things that we're living. My wife juices every Monday. Actually, this Monday we had a watermelon juice, which was very good. But she juices on Mondays, and Monday morning is more of our juice fast. And then, like this morning, I had a smoothie. And so I do a fruit smoothie, some days as well, to where it's not just eating food all day. And then trying to have some healthy snacks, not eating a whole lot of snacks, but some healthy snacks. I'm a nut guy, so I have, trail mix and those types of things around. And then, of course, you have to have your hydration. So the hydration, water, your mixes that you put in your water for, your liquid mixes, powder, those types of things throughout the day. I drink coconut water as well. So they're just different things that you do. I need to do a little bit more exercising, just to be honest. But one of the things that I've learned that I've started to do while I'm here at FAMU is we have stairs. So I normally take the stairs up and down to come, because I'm on the 4th floor. So that gives me an opportunity to be able to get some exercise in as well. And then taking a few, on occasion, we should be doing more, walks with my wife, or workouts with her. She goes every morning and does something. And she's been working to get me involved in going with her. But I'm just not a morning person. But I need to do better.
That's one thing about a woman, a good woman, man, a catalyst. They'll push you to become a better man. That's a blessing.
That's true.
You talked about the opportunity of being at FAMU. How much are you looking forward to the opportunity to pour into a new group of young men and instill some of the wisdom that you've learned over the course of your life?
Yeah, this FAMU job was not something that was on my radar. It really happened fast, but it was something I was prepared for. A lot of times when opportunities come, you may not be prepared for it. But this opportunity came, I was prepared for it. All the things that I've done over my years, the experiences I've had, the basketball teams that I had at Florida State High, I'll just say that, helped prepare me for this moment. And when Angela Suggs, reached out to me through my wife, I had to think about it because I needed to make sure I could get the right staff. And once I was able to speak to who's now my associate head coach, Jared Lazarus, and he was on board with helping me build the team and be a part of the staff, I was able to go out and feel comfortable and confident in knowing that we could build something great here at FAMU because this is a great foundation, great legacy, great brand. And so it was just a great fit for me because, one, I didn't have to move. And two, my wife gave me the okay to make it happen. And three, it was just my speed. People ask, well, what is your speed? Well, it gives me an opportunity to be able to elevate the brand. Haven't been as successful as we would like here over the years, but they've had some great coaches and great teams. But this gives me an opportunity to come in and do something different. Great alumni base to be able to pull from and gain their support. And so that's, that was very enticing. And then, my wife and I are building this Champions Ranch here in Tallahassee. So that gave me another opportunity just to be able to have a bigger platform for that as well. And so there are a lot of great things that has happened since taking over 2.5 months ago that people ask, like, you knew all the things that had been going on at FAMU. Why would you take this job? Well, one, Angela Suggs, I believed in her, and she's a FAMU legacy. And so having her and the stability that it takes to be successful. I also know the provost, and there are people that I know that's here, and just great bones and great foundation. So stability is going to be key for anyone to be successful. And for me to be able to have a relationship with them beforehand, and then them asking me to be a part of their faculty or team, it was just hard to turn down.
Definitely. Well, man, congratulations. You talk about being, proud of what I'm doing. I'm proud of, like I said, watching you from afar, but then having the opportunity to get to meet you in Mobile a few years ago, you become an even bigger fan. It's like, I've been watching this player, but man, the person is 10 times the player. It's what you stand for as a man. Man, it's a blessing just to be in your presence and, the wisdom that you pass on every time we have an opportunity to connect. So I'm definitely appreciative.
Well, I appreciate you, having me on your podcast, and you're doing great work and keep sharing great stories.
Yes, sir. Thank you.